Always
Remember,
to
look
up
when
you
are.
sitting.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
yes,
yes.
yes, yes.
This is Improv in Real Life. I'm Treder-Wolff. I've worked in mental health for 40 years, and in that time, the world has changed completely. Technology has transformed how we communicate, connect, even how we work. But in our relationships, change doesn't happen that fast. That's where improv comes in. Improvisers learn to create together without a plan, and they do that by learning a set of skills. Anyone can learn these skills, and they translate directly to life. In this podcast, we'll explore how improv can help us navigate the speed of life. And together, we'll explore how to face change with creativity, agility, and a sense of play. We have to succeed. We have to get to the next level, maximum productivity. And those are just my morning affirmations. Okay, that's the kind of pressure that I used to put on myself internally, mainly to overcome fear of failure, dread over wasted opportunity, negative self-talk. But when you learn to improvise, that kind of thinking just gets in the way. Improv will help you navigate all the fear and dread, and you can learn to approach it from an entirely different angle. A wonderful book called Improv Wisdom came into my life exactly when I needed this shift. And I am so grateful to the author, Patricia Madson, for meeting with me to talk about it. It's definitely one of those meet your hero moments for me. I know you'll enjoy her, and then go buy her book. This podcast is brought to you by LifeStage. LifeStage provides opportunities for people to gain skills and knowledge for navigating today's uncertain world. The capacity for creativity, connection to new ideas and other people, collaboration, and community building. For more information, visit lifestage.me.
My very special guest on this episode has had an influence on my life for 20 years. And she would have had an influence before 20 years if this book existed before 2005. But she wrote this book called Improv Wisdom. Don't prepare, just show up, which I discovered at a time in my life when I needed exactly what this book says. She is sitting here with me, so I'm just going to bring her into the conversation instead of talking about her, but you're going to get to know some improv wisdom from one of the greats, Patricia Madson. Welcome to Improv in Real Life.
I just love being here, Jude. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this all week, and I'm scared to death.
You're scared? That's exactly the state of mind we want to be in.
Exactly. And people imagine that somehow when you understand how to improvise, that all of those fears are going to go away, but they never do. So I want to start by saying, don't worry about it. I didn't sleep too good last night because I worried about this, but tonight I'm going to sleep great. After we improvise, we feel confidence.
That is such a great point. What a beautiful jumping off place for this conversation, because I came into this feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety
Right?
because I have truly been impacted by your book for this length of time. And I mean, since I read it, probably shortly after it was published in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
It was that impactful for me. But this feeling of excitement is because I get to speak to you, this person that influenced me and helped me influence others in a profound way as a therapist and just as a person in the world, building community, but also, anxiety and fear. And what a beautiful thing for us to both be feeling anxiety and fear, knowing that we don't know what's going to happen. We're on the seesaw right now. We're doing the thing that we don't know how it's going to turn out. And that is what we want. We want to communicate the importance of that in life, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, you're a Stanford professor when you write this book.
Right.
So let's go back in time and let's talk about what your life was about and what got you into improv that made you want to write a book about it.
Well, it's a great story because I was a drama teacher teaching acting. And I got this wonderful job heading the undergraduate acting program at Stanford. And what I didn't know, because I'd never taught college students acting, is that And Stanford students all want to know the right answer. They got into Stanford because they're very good at all the linear stuff and doing it the right way. And when I would work with actors there, trying to get them to feel and loosen up and experiment, they were often clueless. So I needed some way to get into the humanity of these young actor students. And at that point, I was at Esalen doing a workshop on Tai Chi, and I ran into Keith Johnstone, the famous author of, he had just published his book, Improvisation in Theater, and he started teaching improv games as part of a Tai Chi workshop. So I thought, wait, hey, this might be it. So I took these improv games back to Stanford and began sort of opening up. They were working wonderfully well. And in fact, I got invited to teach for the Stanford Continuing Studies program for adults. Well, I wasn't sure adults would care for this work, but I started teaching the games and exercises to Stanford Adults Continuing Studies. And somebody came back to me one day and said, this stuff is changing my life. Finding that yes answer is making it a better marriage. You should write a book about this. There's all kind of life skills that are being taught in this class. And I'd never thought of that. So I started making notes and began the journey that led to writing the book because I kept getting feedback from people saying, these ideas matter. Things like you can start anywhere. You don't have to be brilliant, be average. Try this. So it ended up, long story short, in creating a little life manual, a book about how improv is a way of looking at things. And then because of people like you who found it useful and made copies and gave it to friends and talked about it, the book has lasted now, 20 years? And in just the 10th translation, it's gone into Tibetan. I had a Tibetan Lama monk who was staying with me, and he developed an artificial intelligence program for Tibetan things, and he took and translated my book into Tibetan.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that amazing? The world is so astonishing right now. I feel really lucky.
I love how you just drop in. So I had a Tibetan monk staying with me, and he's like, what a life you're living to have interaction with people using these concepts. Well, they're not using improv concepts, but you find the intersection
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
between what they're doing and the improv approach, which I pulled many words from your book, preparing for this conversation and reviewing. But that one thing you say in your book is that improv is a method of working.
Right. It's a
Now,
mindset, a way of approaching things. In fact, my book has 13 maxims, but as I've gotten older, I'm 82 now, almost 83. The thing is, 13 is too many. So I've condensed it all of improv and life into 4 A's. I'm going to tell you the 4 A's, and then you'll have the whole secret of improv, and then we'll do an exercise on the first day.
okay.
The 4 A's are attention, attention, attention. The second A is acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. The third A is appreciation, appreciation, appreciation. And the fourth is action. That's doing something. So we first of all have to see what's there, and most of us are off in our head somewhere, and we're not noticing what's actually happening or what our partner just said or what's really going on. So attention. We'll do an attention exercise. And once you see what's there, you have to open to it. That's the yes and concept. You have to hold it. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Some people think saying yes to everything means you're supposed to like everything. No. But you have to see it first, open to it, accept it, bring it into your sphere of being, and then you have to look for what's good about it. The appreciation part is you don't just look sort of neutrally, you put the lens of what am I receiving from this? That you see whatever is happening as a gift. We can take that metaphor and do a lot with it. And once we see what's going on, we accept it, we notice the parts where we're receiving something, we're in a position to do our part, to move forward and add on to what's going on. So, right now, wherever you are, you all can do this with me, unless you're driving a car, in which case, don't do what I'm about to say, because I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. But let's do something right now. Sit where you are and take a deep breath and close your eyes. All right. And with your eyes closed, see if you can imagine the room that you're in and the things that are around you. Suppose in a moment you're going to have a quiz on your everyday reality. What's in your visual field? What's behind you? What's in front of you? What's all around? See if you can imagine what that is. Keep thinking about what your world is like. Okay, now we can open your eyes and look around. Let's see how good we were in noticing the reality that we're in. I'm just, whoa, I had totally forgotten about that. Wow. Okay. How about you, Jude? How'd you do?
Well, when I closed my eyes, I thought about the big items, like my piano is behind me. There's a
Mm-hmm.
window to my right. There's a lamp in front of me. There's a lot of clutter on this table.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself getting sort of irritated by thinking about all the clutter on my table and judging it and judging us for having it. And then I was like, no, don't do that. Don't just notice.
Yeah.
Just notice. But I was attending to that. And when I opened my eyes, I realized there are the bigger vision of this room. There's many more things than those big items. I just started to zoom out when I opened my eyes.
Yeah. Well, I'm always surprised. I do that exercise a lot. I think I know where I am. And then I stop and close my eyes and say, what is around me? And I realize that because I often live in my head, I'm thinking of stuff and wondering about the future, see what's going to come next, and blah, blah, blah. And when I stop to really notice what I'm noticing, there's a wonderful book by Rob Walker called The Art of Noticing that I highly recommend. It's a sort of 100 plus exercises in how to start paying attention to everyday life. And I mean, an exercise might be something like pick some sort of artwork that's you've had for a long time, a painting or a picture or a Tiffany lamp or something that you've had for a while that is a quote, a piece of art, and spend 5 minutes really looking at it. There's so much in our worlds and our visual fields. And when I really focus in and stop and really look, not just for 15 seconds, but if I took 4 to 5 minutes and stood in front of something that I've had for a long time, I'd have a different experience of it. So it's that attention leads to appreciation. That when we attend to something, we give it our attention, which is right now the most precious commodity. Every merchant, every little red dot on our devices is trying to get our attention. So, learning to, if you will, marshal that attention or place that attention in ways that increase the quality of our lives, the value, it comes in our attention. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it reminds me of I'm just going to do a strict improv a memory of an improv class thing that happened and then circle back to this thing that you're saying in real life. So I was in an improv class where the guy teaching it wanted everyone what he wanted to convey was this exact quality that you're describing on stage while people are watching you, to be very aware and give your full attention to the other person on stage with you without any judgment or expectation or agenda about it or about yourself, which in front of other people is very odd. It's just an odd, and we all become like showstoppers. We get on stage and do da 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 da. There's something that he made me do it maybe 10 times, like walk on stage, observe the other person, and be in this state that you're describing, almost as if my eyes were closed, except I was looking at the person
Mhm.
without just to have no judgment about it, to have a fully present moment with that person and not show the world anything in particular, but to strip myself of those are all defensive
Yeah.
postures that we bring, maybe what you were describing with the Stanford students, where there's a way to get this right. There's a way to make a splash. It's not even conscious. I don't even want to be that person. It just happens
Yeah.
when we're up in front of other people. And around the 10th or 11th try, I just sort of gave up. I sort of surrendered, and I was able to, I think I surrendered the defenses that I didn't even know were operating, and was able to be in that moment with that other player and finally get let off the hook because we were connecting finally. All that other stuff is performing. I think that what you're getting at, where it started with your students and where when we talk about these 4 A's, it's a way of, another way of talking about that as a therapist, but you learn from improv practice is to be present rather than perform
Right.
in the world.
Absolutely. You've nailed it. And it's not easy to do, but it's a wonderful goal, things that you learn in an improv class. And that at any point, at any moment in time, you can stop and take a breath and notice what you're noticing. Pay attention to your attention and then go from there. What needs to be done?
And sometimes what you're noticing, the therapist in me can't help but throw this in there. Sometimes, and because I work with people to go in, and say, what are you noticing about what you're noticing in
Mhm.
yourself? And it will often be, do I look good? Do I look okay? Am I doing it right? It's so ingrained.
Right.
It's so deeply programmed into us that there's some formula, even when we're saying simply show up,
Right.
like your book says, just show up. And what a liberating thing it has been for me. After that class with that particular teacher, I took a lot of classes with him, and he's not easy,
Mm.
but it made me a therapist that was really, I thought I was listening before that, but I felt different in the room with people,
Mm.
because that awareness will become what you're talking about is attention. And I think it's also the attention to what is happening inside me, and then going, can I let that go?
Mm.
Can I let go of that layer of defensiveness? What a liberating thing that is.
Absolutely true. The maxim wake up to the gifts is the one that fits with the third A of attention, acceptance, appreciation. Okay, appreciation. What I want to offer is not simply noticing what we like or what feels good. I think there's value in doing something like gratitude lists, but the
Yes.
practice of that I want to share is much deeper and wider than gratitude. It's about seeing how we are supported by so many other real people all the time, noticing that at this very moment, there are people in power stations somewhere who are seeing that the electrical currents of our world are all working so that the computers that we're sitting at right now and are able to talk to each other and have this wonderful conversation, there's real human beings doing work that's making this possible. So, an exercise I sometimes suggest is see if you can start a list of thanks to whom are you here today? Or are you able to do what you're doing right now? Sometimes I'm able to do what I'm doing right now because of real people that I know. I've just met you, Jude. So your invitation to come on this wonderful podcast is making it possible for me to blather on about these ideas. But there are people that we don't know. For example, I'm here thanks to a woman named Toinette Lepie, who was the editor of my book. If she hadn't edited Improv Wisdom and you hadn't found the book, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So there's a chain of people at any moment in time whose actual work is resulting in the life that we live right now.
I could think of, could I just inject? I would say the bookstore where I bought your book, there was a purchaser that chose that book, that someone displayed that book.
Right.
They hired cashiers that sold those books. I'm grateful to all of, just talking about your book, there's an entire universe of people
Exactly.
doing roles that brought us together in this way.
It's true. And this looking for who is supporting me now, or thanks to whom am I here, that question should supersede or should be instead of what's wrong with right now. That there's a way that minds, you know this as a therapist and counselor, the mind just loves to go for that negative. What's the problem? What's not working today? Which technology has fallen apart? And this exercise, which is a kind of a long story, it came from a practice that I learned in Japan, sitting for a week making a list of thanks to whom have I received something. The practice also invites me to notice any trouble that I cause other people and make a list of that. We don't ever ask that question because we're real good at knowing what trouble other people cause us. But it's a very valuable question to seriously consider. Who else am I inconveniencing right now?
That is so, do you want to tell the long story about how you discovered this? You just did a summation of it?
Well, there's a practice called Naikan, Naikan, and the Japanese characters of that word mean looking inside. And the Nikon practice is when you sit and meditate on three questions. And the three questions are, what have I received from X? We can talk about what X is. What have I returned or given to X? And the third is, what trouble and bother have I caused X? So if you take X in the formal practice, starts with your mother in looking in detail at what you received from your mom, what you gave to her, and what trouble and bother you caused her when you start thinking about those details. So you go back into your life, and after an hour or so of meditating on those three questions and your mother for a particular period of time, say junior high school years, a person comes back in, bows to you, and then you report those findings to another person. So I might remember I did remember this, that I was in to be a cheerleader. And my mother stayed up really late all night to make me the skirt for the cheerleading thing. And the next morning, when I got up and I put it on, I said, "Oh, this doesn't fit. It's just wrong. Geez, no, I can't wear this." Well, in doing the exercise, I thought about how my mother must have felt staying up all night. And I just screamed at her because I didn't like it. You almost never get to relive those moments when as a child you were unpleasant to other people, but as children we always are at some point. So part of what this practice is, as you're dredging up moments where you caused other people trouble, or noticing the gift that mom had stayed up until 3 in the morning making the skirt, wow, it helps you to begin to look at your daily life now with that lens, with that mindset of what am I actually receiving? The world is, generosity is profound, but we have to retrain ourselves, I think, to start thinking with that lens rather than, what a piece of garbage this technology is.
Yes. Oh, this is a great practice. And I'm speaking from two sides because because I teach improv quite a bit, I immediately think of fun improv exercises that can be drawn from this. And then I happen to work with a lot of people that are also social workers. They're learning improv, but they're also social workers. So they always want to talk about how they would apply this
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in their lives professionally for themselves, but also how might they apply it with their clients. And, typically what people talk about when they're trying to get better in therapy is the things that have been done to them. I'll put in air quotes. Sometimes people truly are victimized, but I mean their trauma story, their victim story, all true, right? And then there's a lot of therapy that is a lot less, that's more trivial than that. That's not as these deep, terrible traumas that are fracturing to your psyche and so on. And yet, this practice of elevating what is supporting me right now, it is a very powerful thing to notice, even to notice the air quality is good today. My electricity, like you said, the electricity is powering my home. My car ran today. These things,
Yep.
had they not happened, wouldn't be such a good day for me. And that doesn't that and the main thing is, of the three that you're mentioning, what trouble have I caused someone or something?
Mhm.
That's really how we change, if we're willing to admit we too are a human being that's ruffling the waters in some way for the other people in our scenes.
Yes.
And I love to do scenes like that in improv, where the person purposely, so we're taking it on. We're going like, I'm going to be trouble for this other character, and then play what that is and make it worse and make it more, and then talk about how that felt. I've not take this three things you just gave me was a wonderful gift. I'm going to use this as a practice myself,
Great.
because it reframes the whole problem. It reframes it, and it also brings it back to your own habits and self-reflection. But it could be definitely deployed in an improv class, is what I'm saying, in a fun way.
Absolutely, yeah. I think as a therapist too would mean a lot. There's a book called Nikon by Greg Kretsch, Krech, that you might enjoy, because it takes the story and the practice of Nikon and explains it from a Westerner's point of view. But I think we're born into our own egos and our own notion of ourselves being okay or not okay. And the three questions: what have I received? What have I given back? And what trouble have I caused someone else? If you start to use those questions, it will change the way you view the world, and it will change the world in a way. Because all that stuff, we've been being supported all of our lives. And we start by kind of looking back on our childhood, but then you can bring that into present day. It's particularly useful set of questions for somebody you're having a problem with. You've got a boss who's non-supportive, or you've got a family member. We've all got a family member who's that problem. What else are we receiving and receiving back? And what trouble are we causing them? So I'd love to hear what exercises you create out of that. I once was doing a business workshop, and I divided the group into groups of 2 or 3, and I sent them off, and I said, let's start to make a list of thanks to whom you are here. And everybody start writing that, and you're going to have 15 minutes, and the group will get together, and then at the end of 15 minutes, let's come together and see which group has the longest number of, let's see who wants to win. So I put them on a competitive thing. So the businessmen went off, and 15 minutes later, one of them came back and said, I know our group win. We had 72 on our list. And it's really interesting. But the amazing thing is that I realized I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mother having loved me and supported me and to do blah, blah, blah. And so because of that, I went and just called her in Venezuela. I haven't talked to her for 6 years, and
What?
it was really important. So thank you for that exercise, because I just didn't realize how much she had given me.
That is a phenomenal story, that it prompted a person to actually get to your fourth A, which is action.
Action, right.
It got right into it.
Yep.
At 6 years,
Yeah.
and of silence, and then felt motivated to call her.
Somehow realized whatever the exercise did in saying, thanks to whom am I here? That can mean anything. Like there was a taxi driver brought me to the thing, or it can, because I was born and raised in a certain way. So I like the question, thanks to whom are you here? And I sometimes will give that to a Stanford student class, saying, this is homework. You can go off and write me a list of thanks to whom you're here, interpret that any way you want, and you can get extra credit in the class for doing that. So I just love it when you start to open the mindset of realizing how much we're supported by others. There's a book The title escapes me right now, about a man who traces all of the people responsible for his cup of coffee. And it's you were starting to do that with the bookstore. So he realized that there were farmers in Colombia that were growing the beans, and there was a factory in Minnesota, and there were some people that were making the paper cups and stuff. So he decided as a life practice that he was going to make a list of 108 people that were responsible for his morning cup of coffee and go and thank them personally. So
What?
he traveled around the world and he wrote a book about it. Thanks a Thousand, A.J. Jacobs. And he tells this story, a gratitude journal, where he goes to personally thank everybody who brought that cup of coffee. It's a brilliant example of sort of taking this idea to the max.
That is a phenomenal idea. And thank you for sharing the book. I never knew about this book. And I just love when people take something all the way. And it just shows that you can create a piece of art out of reality and stretch yourself.
Yeah.
And if people do it sitting in making a list, or somebody goes on and writes a book, it changes your thinking and it changes your being
It does. It
to
changes it.
expand in that way. Yeah.
Right.
What a wonderful extra credit thing
Extra
that you
credit.
gave to your students.
Yeah, he calls this a gratitude journey. And it's really, we sometimes are grateful for the stuff we like. And I also want to point out, it's really important to look at those that are serving you. For example, good example is a surly waitress. So you're in a cafe and the waitress seems to not be filling your coffee so much and has an attitude, seems to be having a bad day. It's very easy to kind of discount that or think of that in a negative way. Well, she's a piece of work today. If you realize that despite her attitude, she brought you your food, which allows you to eat and be sustained and live, that even the surly people are, you're receiving something from them. So instead of coding that with a negative thought, notice what you're receiving.
And with that, that they're bringing you the food. If it were me, I'd also be saying, this is an opportunity for me to see if I can shift the energy with this person. Maybe I can't.
Yeah.
Maybe they're surly and they don't care for cheerful people, or they're not going to connect with me. But it's an opportunity to stretch yourself and say, oh, can I connect with this person? That's not making it easy. And that stretch is that's a good stretch. And then you're not personally offended or victimized by other people's attitudes.
Yeah, you might say, really appreciate what you're doing today. Thanks a lot. Sometimes it's a long day, isn't it?
Right. I wanted to just share a story quickly about, you mentioned moms a couple of times in our conversation so far. And I had a very complicated relationship with my mom and spent a lot of years with a degree of resentment about the fact that she wanted me to be a nun very, very much, wanted me to be a very traditional nun
Mm,
in a traditional Catholic world where you only go to a Latin mass. I mean, really traditional. But it felt like that she just didn't want me to be an independent woman. And that was the framing that I had about it. And when I think about, I've done a lot of healing about that. I completely understand the story from her perspective today. And it took a lot of years for me to realize that she was afraid. She was afraid about a lot of things. And when I frame it that she was afraid, and so she was afraid for me. So
mm,
she was afraid for me, and she just wanted me to be safe.
mm.
And I didn't want to be safe. And the Keith Johnstone saying, those who seek, I just read it this morning, those who risk are rewarded with adventure,
Well,
and those who do not risk are rewarded with safety.
right.
And I wanted the risk, and it scared her so much that
Mm,
she was mad at me. And I've come to this. So when you say this third one about what trouble have I caused,
mm-hmm.
it was a revelation to me, just in you talking about it. I'm reflecting on it as we're speaking, of how much trouble I caused her and making her afraid. There really wasn't anything more we could do about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't collapse into the world that she wanted me to stay in, and she could not be in the world that I was a part of. So we did the best we could in the meantime.
Wow.
But it is a reframing entirely of my love for her,
Yeah.
to
Great.
see her as fearful for me so that I would be safe, rather than mad at her that she wants to oppress me and hold me back, which is what the daughtery energy I had for a long time. There was this uneasy issue, that we couldn't bridge, but I understood it. I'm not sure that she understood it, but that's okay because I was able to love her and I was able to honor everything she gave me. And I think that improv was a part of that because improv is always about taking whatever perspective you've been given in a scene, whatever perspective is the yes to the other person, either to counter them, to be another character in the scene, or because you've been assigned that by them, where they say, well, you seem angry today, and you say yes to it. Taking any perspective probably loosened up my energies even more in a lot of ways than therapy did, because therapy can get a little stilted sometimes.
I think that's wonderful. That's a real revelation too, because you point out a fair amount of therapy is talking about how your parents let you down, and
It is.
and that seems like a reasonable question, because then if you find out the ways that the parents let you down, you can sort of justify why you feel how you feel or whatever. Well, the Nikon mindset is just shifting everything from a whole different perspective. So I want to encourage our listeners to ask that question around maybe a person in their life or a circumstance, or go back and look at something that you've already examined from one perspective of how they let you down, to see where were you actually receiving and causing them trouble. It's
That
humbling.
it's humbling, and there's a wholeness to it because we are accepting ourselves as full human beings, not perfect human beings, not people who know what's the next step, someone living and having a dynamic with other human beings. And this appreciation piece definitely affect the way we experience, like the guy who parks our car in the city. When my husband and I go to the city, we always park in the same parking structure in the building where my mother-in-law, when she was alive, lived there. So we still go there for old time's sake, and we know them all by name and we love them all. And the deep appreciation we feel for the guys that park our car and keep our car safe.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. It reminded me of we went to the airport and we were on one of those, you park your car somewhere and this kind of trolley picks you up and takes you around to the gates. And so the driver of the car pulls around, pulls into one of the stalls, gets out, takes the luggage from the people, puts it on the back, makes sure people gets in, goes around to his driver's seat, and then carefully gets back on the road and does that 20 more times. And so I watched how carefully and skillfully he did it. And so when we got off and went around to the back and he gave us our luggage, I said, "Thank you so much. You are really doing an amazing job. This is complicated and you're keeping us all safe and really doing beautiful work. Thank you." And he looked at me and he started to cry. I think probably no one had ever really acknowledged, not only said thank you, but noticed what it was he was doing, the details. The love
Right.
is in the details, and we really need to express that. That's a great life practice to notice people doing ordinary work, like your drivers there in your garage, and note the details of what they're doing and thank them and appreciate it. That's the appreciation. Hey, I'm wondering, do you want to do a word at a time proverb game with me before we? I'd love to see what we get. There's been a lot
Yes.
of wisdom going on there.
Yes, let's do a word at a time proverb, a great exercise that anyone can do that's listening. And so, you want to begin and we'll just feel it when it's over?
We'll go yes, 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 yes when it's over. All right.
Okay.
Whenever
You
come
to
a
fork
in
the
road
pause,
and
reflect
on
your
life.
yes,
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 yes.
yes, 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 yes.
Not bad. Oh, good. You start one, Jude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always
Remember,
to
look
up
when
You
are.
sitting.
Yes,
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 yes.
yes, yes. Wise. Look up when you're sitting. That's very wise. Oh,
It is very wise.
oh.
One more, one more.
One more.
Yeah.
Okay. Trees
Are
meant
to
give
life
to
the
world.
yes, 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 yes. Wow, coherent thoughts. Amazing. One word at a time.
We got it there.
Well, this was, I want to say this about our conversation as we come to a conclusion and to encourage everybody who's definitely going to buy and read this book and internalize everything that's in it. To me, our theme was interdependence. And one of the ways that we, as individual people, are really part of this great social ecosystem that we can notice if we choose to notice it. And you're made wonderful points and beautifully structured exercises that people could try any time in their life. And it can shift your whole focus, it can shift your whole mood to do these exercises. And the interdependence as a mindset also, I think it helps a lot with this hyper individualism that we have, that even therapy kind of focuses a lot on the hyper individual issues that you have. And it's a nice counter to look at everything that you're a part of and that you're contributing to and take responsibility for that, but also receive it and appreciate it. So I just can't thank you enough for focusing on that today and your life's work. That brings us to this conversation.
Thank you, Jude. You are an inspiration. I love that your work has helped thousands of people through therapy and through the way that you have combined the improv mindset with all that you do. You're a great example. And it was just a delight to meet you today. I've wanted to.
Well, I'm such a fan that I don't even know what to say to that. So I'm just going to say, you are, yeah, you're my inspiration. And that's where we have to end it.
Hooray. Have a great day. Yay. Yay.
That's it for this episode of Improv in Real Life. For more info about our guest and other resources, you can visit our show notes. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're feeling extra generous, write us a review or share with a friend. You can also find us on Instagram at lifestage_inc. And if you want to dive deeper into these concepts, please connect with me on Substack at Jude Treder-Wolff. To be continued, to be continued, to be continued. We need each other now more than ever. We need creativity more than ever. I hope these games and ideas inspire you in some way. And if they do, keep it going. I will too. See you next time.